Hello, everybody, and welcome to Exec Edge. I am your host, Kimberly Cohen, and I'm here with Scott. And we're going to talk all things business today, where we've been, where we're at right now, and where we're going in terms of business and technology. And so, just to give a little short background, Exec Edge was born out of Uniqua AI, which is our basically we act as fractional CMOs for companies, small, medium businesses, and currently concentrating on the recruiting space, local businesses, and acting as a fractional CMO for a couple of other entities currently. So, Exec Edge is a podcast that centers around technology and how it's being applied to many different niches and verticals in business growth. So, without any further ado, let me introduce to you Scott. And Scott, tell me how you're doing, what's going on in your world, where you're at, and how you got there.
Well, currently I'm living in Pereira, Colombia, which is the home of the best coffee on the planet. Um, and I've been here just a couple of months permanently. I've been traveling back and forth because I married a local woman. And as it turns out, it's much easier for me to come here than to bring her to the US, definitely under the current administration and the current restrictions. But I'm loving it here. I kind of miss Four Seasons because I'm originally from Minneapolis, and here it's just never below 60 degrees at night, never above 85 during the day, all year round. And there is no time change because the sun sets and the sun sets at 6 p.m. and rises at 6 a.m. every single day, with only minutes between them over the course of the entire year. Uh, but it's not sweltering hot like people think of the equator because we're up at about 4,000 feet or so. So it's just a beautiful moderate temperature in a beautiful surrounding with trees that I haven't seen anywhere else on the planet. Um, so yeah, I'm doing well here and working with my businesses remotely. We've got a nice little office set up, and so I am happy and ready to go.
Awesome. Yeah.
So
The weather report sounds idyllic, if I'm being honest. I think we talked about this before, but I'm in Texas where the weather is just confused at any moment. It's now freezing, so I'm sitting under basically a heat lamp at my house because it's about
wow,
40 degrees in March in Texas. It makes no sense. Um,
yeah.
that sounds idyllic.
I spent 4 years in the Austin area, just north in Round Rock, and it was the same
Hmm.
thing. 1 year that I was there, and I was there from 2006 through 2009, and 1 year that I was there, we had snow
Yeah.
in
Okay.
Austin,
Yeah.
Texas. Yeah. So,
I've been here for 20 years, so I definitely feel that confusion. So tell me a little bit about your businesses, what you're currently working on.
well, currently, you talked about you being a fractional CMO. My focus is mostly as a fractional COO. Most of my career has been in the operations side of the business. It started off in technology and investment banking that I pursued for almost 9 years. Moved on to joining a dot com that dot bombed. Then ran operations for a subsidiary of Bristol Myers Squibb, not Squid, Bristol Myers Squibb for about 4 years as well. We sold that entity off, and then I went off into another entrepreneurial venture, which was great in 2006 and 2007 and not so great in 2008. Came and did consulting for Delta Airlines for a while, and then moved on to traveling around the United States, working with small businesses and basically teaching them how not to fail. I've worked with over 400 in the span that I was there, looking at their systems and their processes and their controls, which is basically the business of the business, and helping them setting up systems so that they could have more predictable profitability and be able to weather the changes that happens when businesses grow. We found that sometimes businesses fail just as much onto their own success as they do uh, or other things that cause them to fail. So yeah, and so now I've been since about 2021 consulting or working as a fractional COO with small companies, startups, and the like, helping them get their key performance indicators set up and set up business cultures and business habits that can allow them to grow beyond their initial we're three engineers in a garage type of thing. So,
Definitely. What do you think was your favorite vertical since you've worn many hats for many different companies and different
oh my
sizes?
gosh, like which of my kids is my favorite kid? I don't know. I mean, there were things about the investment banking world that I liked. When I started out, it was with Goldman Sachs in Frankfurt, Germany. And whenever there was a problem with anything, they threw money at it, which was convenient. But I worked long hours because we were growing quickly and I was running technology for that office. We went from 69 employees to 255 employees in the span of less than 2 years. I had to deal with the technology of that growth, and there was a whole lot of change while still changing our technology and improving it. Um, so it was a great learning experience. It was a great international experience. I was already a German speaker, and I got to, kind of flex my muscles with that. And then, coming back to the States, I was with Goldman for a while, recruited away to manage multiple offices, the technology for multiple offices with Merrill Lynch, and then was recruited to be a chief information officer at a small bank in San Francisco. I enjoyed that quite a bit. Then we sold that bank off. And now what do I do? And I took some time because I could, and then ended up getting recruited by and joining this organization called Oncology Therapeutics Network, which was another great company. Went through a lot of changes. They didn't have a CEO when I was there. They got a CEO. I was hired by a CIO who ended up leaving the company and went to the National Institutes of Health, and dealt with a lot of change. But I was able to do a whole lot of good things there as well. Um, that are feathers in the proverbial cap with in both on the operate general operations side as well as the technology side. So the things that I've done in the verticals have all been effectively the same things. And people say, well, you've worked for so many different verticals and the airlines and the healthcare industry, pharmaceutical industry and banking. But when you get into the guts of a company, what they do operationally, there's a whole lot of overlap. Where is data coming from? Where is data going? How's it getting there? How is it analyzed? How is it used? All of that kind of stuff is there, and all of it uses technology. And even though my education my undergrad was in pre-med zoology in German, and my master's was in business. And I got hired by Goldman Sachs for my hobby after doing an internship there, which was technology. So,
Amazing.
and I love being in the technology space. I love where it's come. Now that we're into AI, sometimes I spend hours just vibe coding.
Yeah.
I recently got a laptop. I'm running OpenClaw on the laptop, and it's going to be an AI director for a lot of little sub bots. And one of them's going to be there for doing my socials and managing my inquiries over the website. And I'll have another one that'll do. Right now, I'm setting it up to do paper trades. So it'll figure out how to do trading in the background, and then giving it $1,000 in paper trading money and saying, okay, here are some of my things, go get it. And then, if it works well, I'll put it on a live trading platform, that kind of stuff. Dealing with my emails. I've got a bunch of email accounts, and I spend a whole lot of time going through them and realizing, there's a whole lot of stuff here that I don't need to spend a lot of time on. Why don't we just have something read it all for me and summarize it so that I look at the ones that are most important? And so now I'm also doing things like generating my own clone. I've done generation of images and movies of myself already, and hope to be putting
You're
some of that
kidding.
kind of stuff on my website. Oh yeah, yeah, no, it's fun. And then have my open claw, have my little local LLM uh, be as much like me, think as much like me as possible. So in the future, maybe you can even do some general responses to incoming inquiries and stuff like that. So, you know, I mean, I got to teach it how to have my sense of humor, which may be a challenge, but I'm looking forward to that.
That's amazing. So OpenClaw is it seems to be your drink of choice these days.
Yes. I mean, there are a few tools that I cannot live without. I'm a big fan of Claude for, the vibe coding. I'm a big fan of ChatGPT. OpenAI owns now OpenClaw as well, and so you've got links between that. Um, I'm just trying to get it all working together. I mean, Notebook LM, hard to live without it. Nano Banana for image generation. There's a lot of the tools out there that are just really, really powerful. And of course, Perplexity. I mean, you've got, I think mentioned, I don't know if you mentioned it, Perplexity Computer, but I'm going to be eventually getting myself a Mac Mini and setting up Perplexity Computer locally too, and see how that does with OpenClaw. OpenClaw, I'm keeping pretty tight guardrails on because there's still some documented security challenges, but we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see. I'm still in the early stages on that one.
Yeah, I think every one of each one of the GPTs really has their own best ability. Of course, ChatGPT is the most used. But Perplexity, in my opinion, is best for writing, like more prosaic type of content.
And
So
research.
in research, yeah. And I'm helping one of my clients, it's a governance risk and compliance company.
Hmm.
And I feel like Perplexity is best at combining content. So for instance, they've got, probably like 100 blogs that they've written, and we're trying to integrate, Forrester content, Gartner content, other types of content within certain parameters, within the publishing parameters of those sources of thought leaders. And
Hmm.
I feel like Perplexity is the best at really integrating it in a better way, so it's not so obvious, doesn't sound like, they call it like AI slop.
Yeah, that's true. I would tend to agree with that because Perplexity is also what's helping me set up OpenClaw.
Mhm.
So I'm
Yeah.
using Perplexity to say, and I get a problem. It's like, okay, I just set up this little because I have an extra laptop here, and I set it up with something known as the Windows Linux system, and
Mhm.
installed Ubuntu Linux, and then OpenClaw on that Ubuntu Linux. And I had some challenges doing that, and so I put that into Perplexity and even take screenshots, and it'll say, "Oh, yeah, no, I think I know what's happening here. Do this." So
Yes.
it's actually very, very good at that.
Yes, actually, you're so right. We just bought a car, and, there is our mechanic, he had bought it from an auction, so it's, more of a classic, and has used AI to bring it to its full form, which is amazing.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, when you get those things and they have basically all the information available on the internet at their fingertips, and now know how to use it and properly to new situations, it's pretty amazing what it can do.
So what are you using for vibe coding itself?
Right now, I'm using Claude Sonnet and sometimes Opus. Uh, they seem to be working well for me. I'm using them to create some agents right now,
Yeah,
and create an app. Actually, I'm writing an app for my wife's business and we're just in the beginning of it. And originally, I was talking to Perplexity when I was writing the app, and actually talking to Claude about writing the app. But when I was talking to Perplexity about the app that I was writing for her, it said, okay, and set up a Google Fireflies database, and you can do this, and you can do this on the free account, and then you'll need to spend a little money on subscribing and that kind of stuff. And I said, well,
right.
I'm also setting up OpenClaw. And then it gave me I swear the thing has a sense of humor. It says, oh, OpenClaw? Wow, if you're using OpenClaw, you know, don't worry about Google. We don't need to, we'll just write a database for you. And so it gave me the code to put in the database for all the stuff that we were going to be collecting, all the image we're
That's
collecting. And
that's
and it
amazing.
said, and she gets her orders on WhatsApp, and she says that she's using WhatsApp for business. I said, "No, I think you're using WhatsApp personally now." I said, "Well, never get WhatsApp for business because we have a nice API for WhatsApp for business on the phone. So, we'll
Right.
be playing with that as well."
Yeah, yeah. I see a lot of TikToks about different methods of vibe coding, the basics, putting up the paywall, putting it up on the Apple Store, Google Play, etc. And, it just seems like anybody and everybody can put something up that's going to perform and hopefully that they can make a little money on, which I think is nice because it's kind of a crazy job market out there. So people are
Yeah.
becoming more entrepreneurial, more power to them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are having their jobs replaced by AI, uh, but a lot of other people are just saying not getting replaced by AI by being replaced by somebody who knows how to use it.
Right.
My
Yeah.
customers are the ones who can be augmented by AI. I mean, I'm still interested in working with the people that are in traditionally blue collar jobs. So these are going to be everybody in the building industry, from the people that are moving the dirt and doing that kind of, and even the people that are doing the land planning and the civil engineering firms, all the way to the painters that are doing the finish work. A lot of people in the automotive industry, especially automotive repair, mechanics. Those are jobs that are not going to be replaced by AI anytime soon,
Right.
um, because you need hands. And until we get our robotics, our humanoid robots working as well or better than humans can and be adaptable to situations as they happen, it's going to take a long time to replace those jobs.
Yeah.
And so but those people can be made much more efficient by using AI to do some of the administrative stuff where they don't have the expertise.
Yeah,
A lot
exactly.
of yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Augmenting their capabilities, and just sort of maximizing the time of everyone who is actually at an office or within an organization.
Correct.
So tell me more about sort of your COO roles that you're having at the moment. I know we talked about spooky action a little bit. I think you said you had moved more to an advisory role. Tell me a little bit about that if you can.
Sure. Well, okay, so Spooky Action, was started by the son of one of my coworkers at Delta Airlines. His name is Rahul Tiwari. He is an extremely bright young man, and together with one of his friends that have known each other since high school, they're both bright engineers. Rahul is also very extroverted and a natural salesperson. Um, and one of their other friends, a gentleman named Carlo, who's an excellent mechanical engineer, all got together and they started designing these tethered drones. And when they got into that business, I mean, when he was first looking at making drones, saying, I can make it better than the people like DJI, and I just have ideas on how to make drones. This is before he went into the tethered drone business. And this is how I started talking to him when he was 17 years old and still in high school. So this goes back a bit. This is going back, 10 years. Then in 20, and I said, eventually, once you get there, you're going to need somebody like me, who is going to tell you about how to deal with the business of the business. And one of the times he says, are you looking for a job? I said, no, you can't afford me. And then a couple of years later, once they got some funding, they got a little bit of, angel funding to get things started, had some investors. He says, one of our investors was here and they were trying to do that kind of stuff, but they haven't really done anything. And they want to charge us all this money and they want to think about suing us. I said, okay. She said, well, can you come on? I said, maybe, I don't know. Because I was kind of, I just finished, this is in 2021 and 2020. The job that I had traveling around the United States, staying in hotels and flying on airplanes no longer became very advisable to do. Um, so I said, okay. And I charged him a little bit less than half of my hourly rate for this and got a chunk of the company, um, and just started putting in together Monday meetings. Every Monday, we're going to have key performance indicators for the week. Every Friday, we're going to review them and see what needs to get carried over. They've since, and I did that for a couple of years with them. And we had some good things that we did together, good habits to start. And now they've gone past it, and with the application called Airtable, Carlo, one of the engineers, now does the transcription of those Monday meetings, has them already set up with key indicators, key performance indicators, and they just bring that to the next meeting on the following Monday. So now, and they've also used that to basically go out to the news and find out everything that's going on in the drone market, and create that into a newsletter that's all done automatically and emailed out to people. So they've taken the principles of what I helped them get started, and then have run with it and have expanded on it, because, like I said, they're three brilliant young men, engineers, but have now kind of gotten the gist of what they need to get on to enhance it. So I still hold equity. I'm still an advisor. I'm watching what they do. I still get emails because I retain my email address. I'm just no longer involved in the daily operations. But it was a
Awesome.
great experience. It was great because it gave me lots of warm fuzzies, helping them to understand the importance of systems and processes and controls. And now to
Yeah.
see them on my last visit to them do that with automating some of those systems and processes and controls with AI.
Right. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I think that's what, the current agentic AI is born to do is make those business processes easier, and like you said, just really augment what people's core capabilities are. I think maybe a lot of organizations might be relying too heavily on it, or maybe they made too many decisions, bigger business decisions, assuming that AI was going to pick up the slack. And from what I've heard,
Yeah.
there's a lot of regret when it comes to that. But and we can put a pin in that as far as discussing it. We should. I think that also, part of it is to clear out maybe workforce that was hired during COVID that was probably paid more than what they wanted to pay them. And it's kind of been a big salary culling, if you will, with the excuse of, oh, okay, we're going to invest in AI. What do you think?
Well, yeah, there are definitely some businesses that have thrown their lot in before they had it going, before they had it properly tested. When you hear about these big, huge layoffs from like big companies like Amazon, and
Yeah.
it's like, are they all just inside layoffs? And even one of my local companies when I was in Minnesota, Best Buy, had some layoffs. And there are definitely certain things that AI can do better, cheaper, faster, but it needs to be tested. It needs to have guardrails. It still needs to have oversight. And it needs to be tracked by people that can make decisions.
Right.
And I think that the capabilities are perhaps there, but the problem with AI is that when it makes a mistake, it doesn't know that it makes a mistake.
Right.
And you can come afterwards and then tell it how it made a mistake. But that's again, when people are building these systems, how accurate and how many self checks do they do into their prompt engineering to make sure that these agents are always working at the same time and checking on themselves? Or do you have another agent that you can program to check on the work of the first agent, just to make sure that I's are dotted and T's are crossed? And how does it deal with exception handling and that kind of stuff? I mean, there are definitely roles for people that have a larger perspective and can handle things with a human touch instead of necessarily only doing it based on a calculation.
Right.
And I think you're right in that some people, some companies have kind of gone over the top on that. Uh, but I think it'll balance out. It's the pendulum always swings, right, one side to the other, and we'll see how many a company like Amazon has to hire back if they do, if they start finding things are not working as well as they should. I don't know.
Yeah.
Watch this space, I guess, right?
Exactly. Please stay tuned to more Exec Edge for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about OpenClaw and all of that, and of course, Anthropic was in the news for losing their DoD contract. because of these concerns, risk of, I think there was security risks, and I think the other
No.
pushback was the
Yeah, no.
autonomous
Topic lost their thing because of a temper tantrum, in my opinion. I'll tell you that right now. That was I mean, we have a president who works on feelings and emotions and his temper and when he was had unchecked power over tariffs, if somebody says a bad thing about them, they're going to increase their tariffs on all import of their goods. And I don't think that our Department of War secretary is much better. Uh, they said they demanded Anthropic give them all of their stuff so that they could take off all of the guardrails, and Anthropic said, "Well, no, that would be dumb." And so they lost it that way. And again, I think that was a temper tantrum,
Yeah, I would
my
agree.
opinion.
You'll not get any pushback from me on any of that whatsoever. And so now, of course, ChatGPT has taken up the flag, and so it's going to be very interesting to see how that all shakes out. Now that they're spiraling down from Anthropic and going over to ChatGPT. I mean, just in the marketplace, there's been a lot of pushback to ChatGPT. People are dropping their ChatGPT accounts. I don't know if you've seen that.
Exactly.
Well,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No. Remember, I'm getting these a lot of these newsletters on a daily basis. Too many of them.
yeah, same. I need that email handler that
Yeah, to handle all of the summaries that I'm getting in the email. But
I need
there's
one
usually a
summary
couple in any one of those emails, there's a little bit of a nugget that's really interesting that I'm not seeing in another one, but I get them
exactly.
from Galaxy, I get them from TLDR, I get them so many different ones that I've just signed up for. Back when I was learning last year, I signed up for, I think, everything and have since had to kind of cull it down a little bit.
For sure. Yeah, I'm in the midst of that. I think I'm gonna have to declare email bankruptcy for my signups email that I just kind of keep exclusively for my subscription.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no summary that's succinct enough. At this point, it's gonna be a three words a summary for each thing that I've subscribed to. But so going forward, what are you seeing? Look at your crystal ball and tell me what you're seeing for technology for the rest of 26 and maybe 27 in terms of your business.
Well, for me, I'm thinking that I'm going to be having a interesting road ahead because there's so much that's coming out new so quickly.
Yeah,
Back when they talked about the big gap, you talked about every 18 months having a whole new set of technology. I think it's coming harder and faster than that.
I would
The
agree with you.
the only thing that is constant is change, and the change is happening now. For me, that's kind of fun. For me personally, I'm got I think I've kind of been recently diagnosed as ADHD in my adulthood. In my 60s, and
Same.
I got diagnosed with ADHD, and then I could take a look at that, and I look back on my life, and I said, oh, that explains a whole lot, from the age of 10 on up, about just being a little bit weird kid type of thing all the way into the present. And though it has had its challenges that I can point to in my life, it's always that hyper focus is wonderful once it happens.
Yes, it is.
Uh, and so when I get all of this stuff that's kind of new and cool that keeps me interested, and I can get focused on it and master it quickly, more quickly than most others that are not neurodivergent, it's fun for me, and it's fun for me to do that and then be able to explain it to others. For me, technology came easy. The command of technology came pretty easy, a lot easier than a lot of other things. And so, when I find a new piece of technology, I can quickly bring it to some level of mastery. Maybe only a jack, maybe not a master, maybe more of a journeyman. But even with that, I can then use it and explain it to people that are not technologists. I mean, part of most of my career has been the intermediary between the people that are creating technology who cannot speak in business terms to the people in business who think technology is just a massive confusion and puzzles. So, and I think that that's been most of my professional career, and I think that'll continue until I retire. And I don't think I want to retire anytime soon.
Why retire when you're fun when it's fun? I mean,
Well, that's just
honestly,
it.
it keeps
If
your
you're
mind.
having,
I'm the same way for sure. Also late stage, late age ADHD, and it makes it. I think that this time in technology was made for brains like mine, but it's like trying to pick a lane. What exactly are we going to do at one given time? Let's put our line in the sand and figure out that we're going to go in this direction when there's 12 squirrels over here.
yeah,
What to do?
I know. Squirrel, squirrel. That's my
Yeah.
problem too. But and it's kind of funny because even on my website, people say, "Well, what's really your thing?" It's like, are you a coach? Are you a consultant? Are you a fractional chief operating officer? And the answer to all of
Yes.
those things is yes.
Yep.
Yes, all of those things. And it's like, do I pick a lane and just say I'm an executive coach? Well, yes, but I'm executive coach because I also have the solutions that are very practical solutions. Um, so there's your consultant, and we can put in all of those things together, and there's your COO. All of these things are true at the same time, and so I'm trying to position myself now mostly as just being a catalyst, the guy that'll take the oil and water and be the emulsifier so that they can work together instead of not.
Right. Or the duck
So,
that's just swimming underneath the water, as it
yes,
were.
yes. Smooth on the top, busy underneath.
Is the underneath, exactly. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today, and thanks for joining the podcast. I will reach back out to you when we have this published and send you some clips as well. And thanks again for the time. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.